Was that a day of chaos in the NBA? Was that weird performances, out of nowhere injuries, crazy bad nights, unbelievably good nights? Yeah, it was. It was a 13-day Wednesday. Weird stuff, fun stuff, exciting stuff, cool stuff, neat stuff, slick stuff. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monsters. My name is Josh Lloyd and I like turtles. And I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com. You can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_Beeble, on TikTok at redrock_Beeble, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Is it? I hope it is, because I said it. Yeah, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. It's 13 games on. Lots for us to talk about for these 13 games because that's what happens. And it was honestly probably the weirdest day in the NBA so far. So much crazy stuff going on. So I'm not going to waste your time. We're going to get straight into this daily recap. In fact, there's not even much news that isn't covered in the game. So we'll just quickly touch on a couple of news items. But there's not much. Devin Booker has been upgraded to questionable for tomorrow. Beal is out. I still don't think that Booker plays. But he has been upgraded to questionable, so that is a positive sign. That still keeps Gordon as a streamer, Kogi a little bit, Allen a little bit, and it hurts Goodwin significantly if Booker plays. The trade is official for Harden going to the Clippers. Harden didn't play today, but everyone is available to play. So Covington and Martin should be available for the Sixers tomorrow. Batum won't be, and Morris, well, he will be available whether he plays or not. But we'll get a better idea of the Sixers, or some sort of an idea, although not fully, because they have not fully integrated in how they need to run things. But we'll get those guys available for tomorrow for Philadelphia. The other news we got is Derrick Rose is going to be out at least a week with a knee issue. I fear he might be done. Look, he's not going to play when Morant comes back. He hasn't looked good when he's played, and now he's out again with knee soreness. We know the history of knee injuries with Derrick Rose. It's not a great sign for him moving forward, so we'll have to see what happens there. But I don't think many of you would have been rostering Derrick Rose at this point. And if you are, it doesn't look great. But speaking of not looking great, we've got 13 games to talk about. We're going to get into them right now. No need to do waiver wire trends, most added, most dropped. I did that on the waiver wire show about 6 hours ago, so you can go check that out there. Let's look at the first game, and the Bucks. What's going on? They're not looking great at the moment. They lose to the Raptors comfortably, 130-111. There is some consternation amongst Bucks fans about head coach Adrian Griffin. There was already the issue in the preseason with the firing of Terry Stotts, which is not great for your offensive coordinator, head coach experienced assistant to be fired or to take leave or whatever bullshit happened. He's gone. There is some doubt creeping in about Griffin. He was a guy that had interviewed for many head coaching jobs and had not received any head jobs at all. So was there a reason for that? Something just looks off. Some of it could be continuity, new coach, new system, new players in Lillard, but it was just bad. And let's talk about it. I'm not going to panic about Lillard. 31 minutes, 15, 2, and 6 is not fantastic, obviously, but he was minus 26 and had 21 usage. Not good. You should maybe panic a bit about Chris Middleton. 3 games in a row, 16, 17, 17 minutes. He was on the slowest of slow ramp-up procedures last season. He had knee surgery and has come back in with the same sort of situation. Now, 11 and 3 is actually not bad and very high usage, 40% usage. I wouldn't drop Middleton, but it's going to be a long process. And I don't know how to judge Brook Lopez because I was very much against him being picked anywhere near where he finished last season or even around that 50 mark. I had no interest in doing that. I said, let's see what a scheme change does to those high block numbers. How does he look a year older? Well, he looks unbelievably worse than even I anticipated. 6 points, 17 minutes, 13% shooting, minus 22. Didn't hit a three, but did have 2 steals and a block. I would not drop Brook Lopez. Beasley had a big game. 25 minutes, he was a minus 23, but he had 20 points with 6 threes. Now that probably is his quota for the next 10 days or so, but we know he's going to get out there and shoot threes. Let's talk about Yanni, who wasn't great. 16, 4, and 2, 1 steal, no blocks, subpar from the field, 6 of 9 from the line. Please don't be suckered in and look at fantasy rankings and then tell me that Giannis is the 200th ranked player or something like that this season, because it's not going to go well. It wasn't a good game from Giannis, absolutely, but we all know that he's not that ranked of a player. Like he just isn't. So just don't be too concerned about it. There are some deficits, and this just wasn't a good game for the Bucks or for Giannis in general. Lopez played 17 minutes, and Portis only played 19. I have been on this about Portis the whole time. I had no interest in him in round 9, round 10. I've been telling you to drop him since day one, and I'll continue to tell you that he is not a 12-team league must-roster player. 10 and 6, playing exclusively as a backup center. Crowder started the second half with Middleton restricted. He had 9 points with 2 threes, and there's not much to talk about fantasy-wise here. There's just some, there's some stuff going on with this team. It's not good. For the Raptors, after getting pantsed, and by pantsed, I mean just anytime you get beaten by the Blazers, it's a pantsing. Detroit, you're next. This is a huge, huge turnaround for Toronto. They were fantastic, and Dennis Schroder continues to be great. 24, 4, and 11, a clear must roster across the board. 69% shooting. He's been awesome. Now, he was a guy that was, maybe we take a flyer on him at the end of the draft. I think he's going to start, but I didn't expect this. No chance. He's been great. And so has Scotty Barnes. You might think that I'm a Scott Barnes hater, right? I'm not. Everything that I say as a general rule, when we're talking fantasy and draft and positions, like I wasn't that interested in taking Barnes in the 50s. I think I had him in the 60s somewhere, but I did say that he had a sizable chance of breaking through and beating my projections. But he's been way better than I've anticipated. He's been actually legitimately very, very good every game so far. 21 and 12, 4 threes, 5 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. Now, that is a very far cry from where he was as a player last season. He's taken huge steps forward. Impressively, 50% shooting. And Siakam, after a rough start as well, 26, 6, and 7 with 5 threes. Good bounce back from him. When I talk bounce backs, let's go to Jakob Poeltl. 14 and 11 with 4 blocks. Great. Now, there was no Precious Achiuwa, but I don't know. It is relatively clear that Poeltl needs to be playing around 30 minutes a night for this team. Only 25 for Anunoby. There was obviously a blowout in effect. It's not a bad game. In fact, it's still pretty good. 16 points on 100% shooting with 3 assists and a steal. If you look through the bench, there is no rationale in my mind for Gary Trent to be a 12-team league player. 23 minutes, 8 and 3, 36% shooting. Now, if there is someone that I don't think is particularly good, and when I say particularly good, right, let's get this clear, because someone, again, commented on one of my things today. Well, Gary Trent is good. Okay, is he? Yeah, he is. He plays in the NBA. Like, no shit. I'm not comparing him to me. I know that you're good if you play in the NBA. Cool. For what we're talking about, NBA caliber, starting level players who are good to impactful winning players, he's not one of them. Is he a guy that you want on your 12-team roster? No. He's also not good for that purpose. Drop him, please. The Prestige Penis. 21 minutes for grade A Dick. He had 5 points on 20% shooting. Not much else. That minutes distribution between him and Trent is very interesting, because if Achiuwa is back in the rotation next game, and we assume he will be, that's tomorrow, someone's missing out. So do we just lose the 13 Boucher minutes? Who does Dick move out? Because Dick wasn't really getting tons of playing time before Achiuwa went out, even though they're different positions, but they can slide things around. That would be one to watch. I thought it was also a pretty good game from Malachi Flynn, who had 4 assists and 3 steals in that blowout victory over the Milwaukee Bucks. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. You're not battling against thousands of other players, pros, sharks, spreadsheets, algorithms. It's individual player projections, and you just choose more or less. You do it for up to 6 of those, between 2 to 6, and you can win up to 25 times your entry back. And with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of threes made and receptions. So go to prizepicks.com and use the code, or prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA and you get a first deposit match up to $100 reduce. That is prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Let's go into the second game. Very, very disappointing loss here for the Pistons as the Blazers somehow, I don't know how, get 2 victories in a row, 110-101 on the road against the Pistons. Scoot Henderson was looking a little bit better. He had 29 usage, he had 11 points, he had 7 assists, but he only played 20 minutes. He sprained his ankle, and Billups said post-game that he is in quite a bit of pain. They play again Friday. I would expect that Scoot misses a bit of time here. Whether it's 1 or 2 games, I don't know. Now, their point guard depth is exactly Malcolm Brogdon and Skylar Mays. That is it. So Brogdon's going to have to play a lot. But if you're in a deeper format, you might want to look at Mays. And Friday's not a particularly big get day in terms of games. So Mays might be the guy. He only played 8 minutes here, but that will be one to watch. Shaedon Sharpe is going to play a lot. He was very good here. 42 minutes, 29, 7 and 5, 3 threes, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He won't go back to the bench when Simons returns. He will stay starting, and Thibault and his 17 minutes nonsense will surely go back to the bench. Sharpe, this is very clearly his best game. He has been dominating. The injury to Simons in game 1 has very clearly just opened up a big pathway, which wasn't really there for him prior to that first game. Strong game from Dominatin as well. 16 and 11 in 34 minutes with 5 steals and a block. Of course, no free throws, but otherwise good numbers. And Robbie Williams had 3 blocks in 19 minutes. 8 rebounds and 3 blocks for the Rock DJ is solid enough to be a 12-team guy for categories, probably not for points. Only 25 minutes for Brogdon, that's going to push up 14, 6 and 6. And if you are in a deeper league, the car, Tamani Kamara, he 7 and 7 in 26 minutes with a steal and a block. He doesn't play the same position as Scoot Henderson, obviously, but they have no other guards. So I think he can play across the 2 and the 3. Sharpe can play a little bit of point guard as well. Just watch for Kamara in some deeper formats. Pistons legend Jeremy Grant in his Pistons revenge game reverted back to Pistons Jeremy Grant, having 24 points on 44% shooting with a grand total of 1 rebound and 0 assists. He had 1 steal and he went 8 of 10 from the line and shot 44%. This is echoing what he did in Detroit. He scores and he doesn't do anything else. And he does it inefficiently. It's still useful. Don't drop him, please. God, no, don't. But please, we understand this is what he's going to be like. As for the Pistons, Jalen Duren was out, Bogdanovic, Morris, Livers, and then we got a notification. And I think we were the first to do this at Basketball Monsters to report this, so shout out to us, I guess. I don't know. That Alec Burks was a late scratch. Now, of course, we didn't get the news until after the game. The lineups had locked. But apparently he had a forearm issue and was ruled out. NBA injury reporting, you can complain about NBA injuries and rests. You're wrong, to me. You can complain about as much as you want. What you should be focusing on is NBA injury reporting because it stinks, it sucks, and there's an easy fix to it. This is the real problem, is the fact that they don't communicate injuries. We didn't find out that Alec Burks was out until after the game had officially tipped, when, of course, NBA games never tip on time. But we didn't find out, even though apparently he had the injury 2 days ago. That needs to be a fine. Anyway, with him out, it was time to get sassy. Marcus Sasser, 23 minutes, 8 points, 6 assists, 4 steals, and a block. Really good game from him, low usage game. It is hard to find where those minutes come from on an every night basis. But nonetheless, yeah, he was really good, Marcus Sasser. Isaiah Stewart, after the first couple of really good games, he's settled into being Isaiah Stewart again. 12 and 6, 2 threes for Alf with a steal, it's fine. It's totally okay to have on a 12-team roster, but it's not something that you would miss if he was gone. I put it that way. Asar Thompson continues to be really good. 16 and 2 steals, 57 from the field. Really like what he's doing, and he's a must-roster player pretty clearly, while it's looking pretty bleak for Jaden Ivey. In a game with no Bogdanovic, no Burks, no Morris, no Livers, he played 22 minutes. Had 10, 2 and 2 with a 1-1, which is, it's okay. but I don't think we need to hold on there. While Killian Hayes played 26 and went scoreless, he had 3 steals and missed all of his shots. Maybe Sasa takes those minutes. And then we did have Marvin Bagley starting in place of Duren. He didn't do much, 10, 6, and 3 with 2 steals and shot 30%. But normally you'd expect him to be 60%, 3 extra shots, 6 points, 16 and 6 would be great. So if Duren is out again, which I think he might be, it is worth grabbing Bagley for the stream because Jim Wiseman had 4 fouls in 6 minutes. And he is, despite me thinking Bagley is not a particularly good NBA player, Wiseman's way worse. So yeah, Bagley's the guy there. Haven't even talked about this team's best player, and that's Cade Cunningham. 30 and 5, 5 threes, 4 assists, 1 steal. Still not shooting well, but taking a lot of shots. 39 usage, 41%. Has he been as expected? I would say probably yes. In some areas, yes. Some areas, no. I'd say he's probably been about what you would have hoped for. Maybe you would hope for a little bit better in terms of efficiency. But otherwise, I wouldn't say you'd been disappointed with what Cade has provided. Maybe that's a better way of phrasing it. The next game we take a look at, the New Orleans Pelicans up against the Oklahoma City Thunder. 110, the Pelicans win. 106, the Thunder. There was no Trey Murphy, no Najee Marshall, no Brandon Ingram, no Jose Alvarado. So they went back with Jordan Hawkins, who had 10, 6, and 5. The 5 assists are eye-opening. He had 2 steals and 2 threes. Now, we shot a lot of times, 19, and he shot only 21%, which is horrific. But the 2 threes were interesting. If Ingram remains out, and I don't think he will, Hawkins can be at least a deeper sort of stream. Let's talk centers because we have seen this time and time again. Now, on the surface, you'll look at this and go 19 and 9 for Valanciunas, steal and a block. That's actually really good. 7 free throw attempts. It's sick. It's amazing. And it is. But he played 21 minutes. And Larry Nance played 23 minutes. This is exactly why Valanciunas was going outside the top 100. Nance, 23 minutes of Larry Nance is absolutely a 14-team league guy. And he had 9 and 7 with 2 steals, so we're okay with that. While Zion, now unfortunately, somehow he was only 35% from the field, but 20 and 10 with 8 assists and no defensive stats. He's as Zion as it gets. And McCollum really benefiting. Look, if you're going to sell high on someone, CJ getting 29, 11, and 5 while shooting 59 from the field is a gigantic sell high. He has played really well. But I guess, how do you trust them to have Ingram or Zion out there? And that's when CJ gets the opportunity to play much better. But even with all that said, CJ can't really continue to shoot at this level. Herb Jones, I think the allegations of him being a one-category specialist are true, and those allegations come from me, so I know that they're true. Well, then that doesn't make them true. That makes them my allegations, but they're true. 5 points. He didn't even have a steal in this one. 22% shooting, 31 minutes. If you can't get more than 31 minutes, Herbalife, when every wing on this team and defender on this team is out, then I got some worries about where it heads from here on out. I do not believe that Herb Jones is a 12-team must-roster player unless you're really chasing turnovers. But then you could just add his teammate Trey Murphy, who'll probably get fewer turnovers than Herb anyway. I just don't think he's worth it. In a points league, I would jack him off pretty quickly. On the Thunder, Chetty, 37 minutes, Chet Holmgren. Wow. 19-11 with 2 blocks. I've been telling you guys I think he's one of the best rim protectors that I've ever seen come into the league. And yeah, I still think it's true. While Shea had 20 and 5, 8 assists, 3 steals, but back to only 5 free throws. I would say that you have been marginally disappointed with Shea so far. Not terribly, but marginally. The slob wizard, Josh Giddey, had 15, 9, and 4 with a 111. That's 2 solid games in a row, which he'd want after a couple of stinkers. And speaking of someone where maybe just a little bit disappointed, not terribly again, is the Bronco, Jalen Williams. 18 and 8, no steals, no blocks, 39%. Part of the reason he was able to push to be a top 35 guy last season was insane percentages and insane steal numbers. And they just haven't been there. He's still been pretty good, right? He played 38 minutes and scored 18 points. But I wouldn't say that he's taken a huge step forward. And maybe that's the disappointment. Lou Dort, yeah, look, come on. We're not rostering this guy. 9 points in 30 minutes with 3 threes, and then not much else going on the bench there. 18 minutes for Kasan Wallace. He had 4 points with 2 rebounds and not much else going on there. And if you want to talk about not much else, well, we'll talk about not much else soon. But before I do talk about not much else, I'm going to talk about FanDuel because they are one of the sponsors of today's show. So score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And then with those moneyline bets that you win and you get those bonus bets into your little account, you can go stick that on whatever you want, whether that is future bets or parlays or props or spreads or totals. It is all there on FanDuel for the NBA, college basketball, college football, NFL, the World Series still going on, I believe. So go and check out all of that over at FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and tip off the NBA season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, let's go through the rest of these games. This one, I don't know how much time I'm going to spend on it because not often you see a 50-point victory, and that's what the Celtics did. In fact, the Celtics didn't. I lied. They won by 51. 155-104. There was no Tyrese Halliburton or Jalen Smith, and it's always going to be hard to be competitive when you're missing Jalen Smith. Not to be surprised at all, as I banged on about, is that when Halliburton goes out, TJ McConnell, while he might grind offenses to a halt with his inability to shoot, he puts up numbers. 28 minutes, 18, 7, and 5 with a steal. You don't need to go and rush to grab TJ. But if we hear Halliburton misses more time, TJ's a good stream. Because Nembhard just never seems to be able to elevate that. Now, again, it is a blowout, so we got 20 minutes out of the starters. Nembhard had 14, 2, and 1 and took 17 shots. It's a lot of shots, but he's not an assist guy. While Bruce Brown had 3 points in 21 minutes. Don't make snap judgments, though, off of this game. The same goes with 22 minutes for Miles Turner. The guy that played the most out of the starters was actually Obi Toppin, 11 points, but he's a very, very clear drop. Isaiah Jackson even got into the mix with what Isaiah Jackson does, and this is why we've always liked him for fantasy. 19 minutes, 4 blocks, 7 points. But he got the backup job because Jalen Smith was out. Now, I don't have any idea why they view Jalen Smith as a good player, but they do. So Jackson probably moves back to third string really, really soon. Aaron Nesmith, the 19 minutes, 9 points. He's been added in a lot of 12-team leagues, not onto my team anywhere, I don't think. I just don't think he's a 12-team league guy. He's a middling 14-team league possibility. We also got 15 minutes out of Ben Shepherd. 6 points with 2 threes there, and I don't really think there's much else. Oh, Bud Hield had 7. I don't really think Bud, especially in 10-team leagues, I don't think Buddy Hield's must roster. For the Celtics, what are we going to say here? Tatum had 30 and 12 in 27 minutes. Holiday 15 and 7. Derek White 18, 3 and 4. But it's just a giant ass kicking. Porzingis set 13 and 6. Horford played 11 minutes. They didn't need him out there. 16 points for Jaylen Brown. What I would note, though, is that Peyton Pritchard had 15, 4 and 9. And if someone misses, Holiday or White misses time, then Pritchard moves into streaming territory, and the other guy to watch is Hauser, who had 17 points with 5 threes in 19 minutes. But they killed him. The Celtics look honestly dominating this season. They've been unbelievably good, and their new line, it's weird. We can say, they've got to find chemistry, and you've got this team who's got Porzingis and Drew Holiday in there, and they're just like, nah, we're good. Well, we're just going to kill them. And chemistry doesn't seem to be a problem. Very interesting. Very interesting. Let's do the next one, which is the Cavs getting revenge over the New York Knicks after losing to them yesterday, 95-89. Still no Allen, still no Garland, but Karis LeVert did return, came off the bench. 31 minutes for LeVert, 19, 6 and 5 with 3 threes. We can just keep rolling with him until other players return. While Don Mitchell had 30 and 6 with 6 threes on 41% shooting. Evan Mobley, look, that's good. Don't get me wrong, 14, 8, and 5, 2 steals and 2 blocks is totally good, totally reasonable. But much like when I talked about Jalen Williams earlier, has he actually taken any steps forward? I don't think he has. He just sort of feels like the same guy. And the Max Strus and Isaac Okoro magic may have rubbed off a little bit. 9, 4, and 4 for Struder in 35 minutes, the Winter Soldier. And he had 2 blocks, but 33% shooting. The minutes, which were gigantic, have come down. Some of the peripheral stats have come down. Although 4 assists is still nice. I just firmly believe that when Allen and Garland return, it's going to be really hard for Strus to remain a 12-team league guy. We still roster him for now, but I've seen Max Strus as a starter. I've seen him just do nothing apart from being an inconsistent three-point shooter for many, many, many years. And I'm not certain that switched because of 2 or 3 strong games to start this season. So he's rosterable. I'm just not certain that it sticks. As for Okoro, you stream him in, but like, we're back to the same old bullshit, aren't we? 2, 3, and 2 for Isaac. For the Knicks, Rowan Barrett was out, so we got some more minutes for more people. 30 minutes to the big Ragu. 16 points, 3 threes, 2 steals, 1 block. And unless you hear that Barrett is out again, do not bother to add him. This is why this happened. You take Barrett's 34 minutes away, they get pumped into DiVincenzo, you get a couple more to Quickly, you get a couple more to Hart, and that's what happened. As predictable as anything. And then he'll go back and play 21 minutes, and we'll get a whole big mash of minutes. That's just what is going to happen, I think. Brunson, 24, 4, and 4, just hasn't, again, quite been himself. Horrible shooting night. Now, he will bounce back from this. He's historically been a pretty good shooter, but he also benefited last season from insane shooting numbers, which had 0 chance of sticking. And we talked about this ad nauseum in the preseason. But it will be better than this. Hartenstein went scoreless, but he had 3 steals, while Robinson had 16 boards and 2 blocks. Good night for him. And Grimes, they just don't want to give him the minutes, do they? 5 points in 22 minutes for Grimer. His briefcase, his haircut, nothing's happening, mate. Nothing's going on here at all. You can very easily drop him. And speaking of nothing happening, and let's throw something out before we talk about another play later on, but maybe having off-season surgery, Chris Middleton, maybe Giannis, Julius Randle on the ankle, maybe LaMelo Ball in Charlotte, maybe that's not a great way to start a new season because Julius Randle has been putrid. 6, 6, and 4, 20% shooting. Doesn't stop him taking shots, of course. He's just bad. Like, he's just not performing well at all. He doesn't look in shape. He's doing too many, like, you know his style, the double royal, spinning his way through to silly shots. He will have to be better than this, but I think that ankle surgery might be causing some problems. Emmanuel Quickly, 18, 6, and 4 in 28 minutes. That's really solid again, but we know that all these guards got a little bit of a boost with Barrett out. Hart actually started this one 11, 8, and 3. Like, 11, 8, and 3 from Josh Hart's fine, but we can't guarantee that he gets that every night because he hasn't. So I don't think that he is a 12-team league player. Let's go on to the next game. The Brooklyn Nets get a victory over the Heat, 109-105. I'm not sure I want to talk about Cam Thomas because I'll just be labeled a hater. Because we knew that it was going to happen. He shot 21% from the field. We knew it was going to happen. He could not continue to do what he did. He still had 31 usage. He was a -9 in a 4-point victory. That's fine. Dorian Finney-Smith was a -20. But to Cam Thomas's credit, he had 2 rebounds and an assist. No, to his credit, he had 3 steals and a block, which does help. Without those, it would have been one of those games where you've taken too many shots and contributed absolutely nothing, which is part of the reason why his minutes and role have been inconsistent through 3 seasons. While these players are out, Claxton, Johnson, Dinwiddie, Smith, he's going to continue to get a very large role, and when he is out there, he is going to take every shot that he sees possible. It's going to happen, and there's going to be wild inconsistencies with shooting numbers. For now, he's a must-roster player. Whether that sticks later on, who's to say? Me, but who else is to say? Also me. I don't think it will, but for now it is. Mikal Bridges was pretty good. He did have a rib problem that's delayed his start to the second half. 21, 7, and 5 with a steal. He's been okay. While Finney-Smith had 15 and 3 and Royce O'Neal had 6, 7, and 5, 2 steals and a block. That is one of the biggest Basmati man lines you'll ever see. That is what Royce does, but of course it takes Claxton, Johnson, Dinwiddie all to be out before we get there, so don't overreact. How about old mate Armani Brooks, one of the biggest no-conscience chuckers in the NBA? 17 points with 5 threes in 16 minutes and a +30. Yikes. He's the new Cam Thomas. He's a two-way guy who got extra run because all of their guards were out. Benny Simmons did not play super well, but he had 4 points with 11 rebounds, 5 assists, and a block. And it's fair to say that he's exceeded expectations so far this fantasy season. Let's look at the Miami Heat side of things now. I'm going to get cooked for this one as well. But if I'm going to get cooked for saying things, I might as well just lean into it as I do with the Raptors. How many minutes did Nikola Jovic play, guys? How many did he play? 0. And that is with Kevin Love and Caleb Martin out. Because it turns out that maybe he isn't that good of a player. He's young. I know. He might turn into something. He might. But they also don't value him as a valuable contributor at this point. That is pretty clear. He's rostered in 12-team leagues. Jovic is rostered in 12-team leagues. Please don't. Bam Adebayo, 21-14, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. He was very good. And Tyler Hero continues to put up some very strong numbers. He's been that option where you got him in the 60s or 70s who's definitely outperforming expectations. 30 points with 5 assists and 6 threes. Haywood Highsmith returned, first action for the season. They do like Highsmith. He's not a huge option, a huge upside guy, but 9 points, 3 threes, a steal, and a block is useful. And Jimmy Butler continues to not be able to shoot for whatever reason. 20-7, 44%. Good that he played, but those numbers are a bit off. Well, Josh Richardson played 30 minutes. Now 11% shooting's horrible. Him and Jaime Jaquez were seeing who could miss the most shots. They both went 1 of 9, so it's a tie. Richardson, 4 points, 3 assists and a steal. I think Joshy is going to be more a 14-team than 12-teamer. While Jaquez started in place of Love/Martin, and he had 2 points with 2 steals and a block, I don't really think he's ready to be a regular NBA contributor. And I again, like Jovic, is it because I hate the Heat? No, I don't. But I just don't see Jaquez as this high upside, future top-level starting caliber player. Rotation guy, probably. And fantasy darling, probably not either. I don't really see it with him. But, he got the start. And as a rookie, getting a start on a team that thinks they're going to be challengers is impressive. Let's do the next one. Speaking of weirdness, the Washington Wizards, who, I may have or may not have criticized last game for playing their backup center 0 minutes when their starter went down. They decided to switch things up again, and they went and started Mike Muscala. Cool. If you can understand anything... Now, I will admit that I've probably made a mistake evaluating the Wizards. I know that they've got a terrible coach. I know that. And I've said that many times. But I thought they'd be a little bit more competitive, or at least a little bit more predictable than what they're doing here. Because this is the sort of stuff that ruins you in fantasy. Why would Muscala play 0 minutes and then 22 the next game? 7-4 with a 1-1, okay? Why are we just keeping every player under 25 minutes or whatever? This wasn't not a gigantic blowout, 130-121. I thought they would have to heavily rely upon Kuzma and Poole, and they just don't care. Kuzma, that's a great line, 25, 9, and 6. I also didn't expect, when I thought that Poole could be a top 50 comfortable player, top 40 comfortable player, that Kuzma will be dropping 38 usage and Poole will be dropping 29. I knew they'd fight it out for a lot of the shots, but I didn't think Kuzma would win so handily. He was very, very good again, Kyle Kuzma. It was also a really good game from Avdia. 22, 5, and 3 with 2 steals and a block, and he shot a lot, and they went in. I still don't fully believe that he is going to be this must-roster 12-team league guy, but that's impressive. But that also means that we saw Bilal Coulibaly move back to the bench. Now, Bilal played 28 minutes. He had 3 steals, but he's going to be Herb Jones. I don't think we want him in 12-team points leagues, and I don't think we necessarily need him in 12-team category leagues. Even though the minutes here are strong coming off the bench, there's just so many downsides to his game. Let's go to Tyus Jones, who had 6 points with 3 assists. Not exciting at all. I was not big onto Tyus Jones this season. I'd say my evaluation of him has been sort of on point, but my evaluation of Poole has been way off. He has been really quite poor. Like very poor. Terrible, in fact. 13 points, 2 threes, no rebounds, 1 assist, 39% shooting and only 29 usage. Fourth highest on the team. Like, who could have possibly expected that? Like, even if you hate Jordan Poole and thought he was going to shoot 37% from the field, you wouldn't have expected that we're getting 20 minutes a night from him on fewer shots than Avdia and Kuzma. Like, that's not what you would have expected. So there's something very, very strange going on with the way they're distributing the minutes. Now, to be fair, all their starters got absolutely cooked. So they did run with the bench, and guys like Marui and Rollins and Gallinari, especially Rollins as a plus 17, got them sort of back into it. It's going to be a tire fire of up and down roller coasteriness, and I probably misrepresented, or not misrepresented, I probably or just thought they would be a little bit better than they are. It doesn't help that Gafford's not there, their literal only big man who can provide any sort of defense. But him out is a real problem for them. Kisper got injured this one, sprained his ankle. You don't need to roster him in 12-team leagues. For the Hawks, let's start with a couple of good things. Onyeka Okongwu, 27 minutes, 16 and 11 with a block, while Clint Capella was neither injured nor in foul trouble and played 21. Interestingly, Capella was a plus 17 and Okongwu was a minus 8, but the matchup theoretically wasn't great for Capella against a spread 5-out offense that doesn't always run a center. But Okongwu's minutes are pushing up every single game. He is a very, very clear must-roster player, 100% a must-roster player, Okongwu, but don't expect that it's going to be 27 every night. Much like, don't expect that Jalen Johnson plays only 24 while the depressed penis plays 32. They benched Jalen Johnson and brought Bay back into the starting lineup. And Quinn Snyder, I don't really get it. He said that the lineups are going to be in flux. I don't know. I've watched Sadiq Bey play for 4 years, and he's just the same guy, like that he always is. He's a guy that you think should be able to defend but can't. He's a guy that you think should be a knockdown three-point shooter but isn't. I don't know what the point of it is. What's the matchup situation we're running with here? When Jalen Johnson had been so good to begin the season, why would you bench him? Now, not to say that Jalen Johnson played so well here. He had 5 turnovers. He wasn't super good. 8 points, 11 rebounds. And please don't drop Jalen Johnson. You must hold him. But it is going to be maybe a little bit of a bumpy ride here early on if we go by what he said, which is fair. We also got a really slow start for DeAndre Hunter, but then in the end, he turned in a good performance. 23-7 with 2 threes. He looks like a 12-team must-roster guy. Big game from DeJounte Murray again, not quite as big as last time, but 24, 4, and 8 on 67% shooting. His last 2 shooting performances have been absolutely fantastic. It's going to drop off. And his first couple of games were really bad. He had to improve. His next couple of games have been very good. He's going to regress. He's going to settle somewhere in the middle. While Trae Young still can't get the shot to fall. 23, 3, and 10 with 2 steals on 39%. So, yeah, I expect Trae's shooting is going to improve at some point, and DeJounte won't stick at a 67% shooting situation. But Hunter does need to be rostered, so does Okongwu, and don't drop Johnson. And Bay, I believe, still just remains as a streaming type player. All right, so how do we make sense of this next one as the Wolves smack the Nuggets 110-98? Let's start on Denver's side of things. Jokic was still pretty good, 25-10, and Christian Brown was better again. That's 3 solid in a row from him. Definitely not a 12-team ad, though. 8-9 for Brown, while Murray had 14, 6, and 6 and a 1-1, but shot poorly, and Michael Porter Jr., that's low minutes, two in a row for Michael. 25 minutes, 5 and 5 on 18%. He started off so good, and he has dropped off here. While KCP, I talked about him on the Waiver Wire show earlier today and saying that I think a lot of what he was doing was smoke and mirrors. He had 6 points, 26 minutes, a 1-1. He, I don't believe, is a must-roster 12-team league player. He is totally okay to have on a roster, but I do not believe he's a must-roster player. And for points leagues, he's currently averaging 22 points a game and 146th. Reggie Jackson, I don't know why I'm talking about Reggie Jackson, but let's talk Aaron Gordon, who played only 18 minutes in this one. He did have some foul trouble, 4, 2, and 2, while Peyton Watson had 4 points in 16 minutes. Overall, I don't really know what to take out of this, apart from being a little worried about what's happening with Porter and his minutes, but not overly concerned. We got like 5+ minutes of garbage time. He also got 16 minutes of Julian Strawther with Gordon in some foul trouble. For the Wolves, what about Mick Conley? 17, 3, and 6 in 27 minutes on 78% shooting. Huge. While Towns had 21, 8, and 4, and Nazareth played 19 minutes. And this is what we wanted to watch for. What minutes were they going to give Reed? 19 is not ideal, but the performance is still good. 16 and 5 with a steal and a 3. He's a hold for now, but we want to keep monitoring it because we still don't fully know because McDaniels only played 21 minutes. And McDaniels had 2 blocks and 9 rebounds, which 9 rebounds for McDaniels is huge. You don't get that usually. And Gobert had just the 4 points, but 12 rebounds and 2 blocks. And what a weird game from Gobert. He missed all 7 of his shots and hit all 4 of his free throws. Sometimes you look at shit and you go, there's no way. Right? How is that real? How is this possible? How is Rudy Gobert, the man who's only dunking the ball and can't hit free throws, doing 0s and 100% on the opposite percentages? But it happens. This is what happens on day-to-day variance. Anthony Edwards, again, much like some of these other earlier players, Evan Mobley, Jalen Williams, has he actually gotten better this season? I don't know. He's ranked 30th in category leagues, 38th in points leagues, 24, 2 and 1, 2 steals. Seems like pretty much the same guy, to be honest. And, yeah, if you took him in round 2, I do understand why you did it. To me, he was more of a back-end round 2 player, maybe early 3rd. But, I don't know, I feel like you'd be somewhat disappointed. Not as much as with some other picks, obviously. But he just hasn't really pushed forward. 25 minutes for Kyle Anderson. I don't believe you need to hold on to him. 9 and 3 in 25 minutes, especially when you're going to see McDaniels' minutes push up as I knock over my Steph Curry Funko Pop. All right, now we get into the game where I don't really know what to say in this one, but we'll do as best as we can with saying words because it is the Charlotte Hornets losing to the Rockets 128-119. Let's just start with LaMelo Ball, who was horrible early on, horrible. But then in the end, like, he was okay. 19, 5 assists, 1 steal, 2 threes, 47 from the field, 75 from the line. Now, he was almost a team worst, minus 14, minus 15 was the worst. But he started off so poorly, he just wasn't really playing, and then he started to crank together. I was in on LaMelo Ball as a first-round-ish player, out on him as a guy that you take at 8 or 9 because of a 2-week playoff schedule. So I don't know. Is he my guy? I don't know. I think that he's better than this. Like, he's really struggling at the moment. I think he's way better than this, but it is troubling. I am encouraged that he turned it around in the second half of this game. And there's still some, like, 1 rebound and 5 assists for LaMelo is so abnormal based on what he normally does. And he's been doing it earlier in the season as well, getting those good numbers in other categories. A lot of it is just the shot that isn't there. So I'm not super panicking. I'm also not super panicking about Mark Williams. 25 minutes, we'd love a bit more. 9 and 6, 2 steals and 2 blocks. Okay. Just seems like it was a weird game because the guy that had been dominating, Brandon Miller, played only 24 minutes. 10 and 5 with 2 assists. And I do fear Miller is a 12-10 league guy for now. But like I said the other day, when they don't limit the centers and go small like they did against the Nets, and when Miles Bridges returns, which unfortunately feels like a when, not if, I don't know where Clifford's going to find the minutes here for Miller. Hold him for now. Hayward and PJ continue to play well. 17, 7, and 5. Gordon Hayward, absolute must roster. So is PJ, who had 23 and 3 with 5 triples. And Rozier just sort of plugging along. He's been solid. He hasn't been blowing us away, but he's been solid. 21, 3, and 6 for Terry Rozier. No free throw attempts, but just weirdness across this game in general. The Miller minutes, the Williams minutes, the Ball minutes. Just weirdness. Big Dick Nick had 10 and 8 in 19 minutes. That's Nick Richards with 4 blocks. Good game from him, but he's been invisible most of the time for the Rockets. All right. Dylan Brooks is good now. I'm as stunned as anybody. 38 minutes, 20 points, 5 assists, 5 steals. Low usage, high efficiency. There's no way this man is real because this is just not Dylan Brooks. Or was there an issue with culture in Memphis and coaching? I don't know. Anyway, Memphis, I think, lost again today. Haven't looked at the box score of that one yet. As for Dylan, that is clear must roster. Like, you have to get him. It's weird, but you have to get him. And there's no one coming for the minutes because Amen Thompson suffered a grade 2 ankle sprain. That is weeks. That is not games. That is weeks. A grade 3 is months. This is 4 to 6, I would guess, for Amen. So you can go and drop him or put him in IR. Only 27 minutes for Şengün in this game, but wouldn't be too worried. 19, 7, and 4. I don't really know why the minutes were so far down. And Jabari Smith started slow, but ended up okay. 17, 6, and 4. Van Vliet, 22, 3, and 11, who, again, people have been pretty disappointed with his start. I'm not really sure why you would be. I think he's been okay. And it was solid enough from Jalen Green. 23 points, 4 threes, 2 steals. Shot inefficiently, but got to the line, and that's really important. 7 of 7. So overall, some pretty good numbers here from the Rockets. With the men out, do they throw Cam Whitmore into the rotation? Because there's still no Tari Eason out there. Or is it going to be someone like... Well, because Reggie Bullock was actually out of the rotation today. So probably Aaron Holiday, who played 11 minutes here. Majority of that coming when Amen went down. But overall, just another weird game in a weird day of the NBA. The Bulls go down to the Mavericks 114-105. A huge rebounding game from Nikola Vucevic. 36 minutes, 21 and 20 on 59% shooting. No free throw attempts, but a very strong game after some very piss-poor games to begin the season. Vuce has been very good the last 2 games. And he got more usage than DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. Don't really expect that, do you? LaVine, 22, 2 and 1, 5 threes, 2 steals. I'm going to address something that I saw today about LaVine. There can be a little bit of panic or even overthinking things in fantasy. Sometimes fantasy, we can overthink things to a degree that's just impossible to get any benefit out of it. Like, there are things that happen that you have A, no control over, and B, no way of predicting, yet you might spend way too much time thinking about it. I saw someone be like, man, do I just go and trade LaVine away now? Because I've heard rumors that maybe he goes to Philly and then I'm not sure what his role would be. Like, if he goes to Philly, he goes to Philly, right? We hear rumors about stuff happen all the time. That sort of stuff is out of your control. And then even what would happen in that situation, you don't really have any idea. And there's so much variance that goes on all the way through this stuff that I think sometimes if you just dig so deep, it's like you're searching out hometown return narratives and is his girlfriend's mum in the stand tonight, or revenge games or contract years. Like, it doesn't actually generate any positive benefit for you. So I think sometimes we just got to let some of that stuff go. Levine, 22 points with 5 threes and 2 steals, while DeRozan was very quiet early on, 4 points only in the first half, but ended with 16, 3, and 7. He's been a little bit below where you would expect. All right, let's talk Coby White. Let's talk the positives. 33 minutes. Let's talk the negatives. 10 points, 33% shooting, no defensive stats. I do really value a starting point guard who plays over 30 minutes a night. There are less than 30 of those in the NBA, and they can have real use in fantasy basketball. Coby White was much better than this in preseason, but he's honestly been terrible through the regular season. There's been some terrible shooting nights. I don't think he's had one good shooting night, but at some point he is going to see better shooting. He did it for like a 40-game stretch or whatever it was at the end of last season. We shot really well. That's part of, I guess, how he was able to earn the job. But encouragingly, even while there is struggles, he still played 33 minutes. If there is a great option on your waiver wire, that's totally okay to drop White. I said a few days ago I'd like to give it until the end of this week just to see if we get any sort of signs of life. I am encouraged by the minutes. The usage is okay, 22%. But by no means is he an absolute must. He was a guy we took in round 10, 11, 12 as a starting point guard who got the opportunity to see what would happen. Hasn't happened. Might happen. Hasn't. Caruso, 22 minutes. He needs more than that for me to care a great deal. And Carter had 12 points in 15, and Pat Williams, or obviously dropping him, missed all 6 of his shots, played 25 minutes. He did have a steal and a block, so he's always going to be at least a stream option for that. For the Mavs, big hot streak for Tim Hardaway. 24 points, 7 triples with Kyrie out, 27 minutes, 27 minutes. He's shooting really well. He's been amazing. He's a fine stream, but that's about it. Well, Grant Williams, 25, 7 threes, 5 rebounds, 70%. Obviously, he's not a 70% shooter, not a 7 threes guy. He only played 30 minutes still. He's a definite 14-team league guy, but that's very, very strong. And then the Derek Lively minutes conundrum continued. 33 of them. 7, 13, 6, 2 steals, 1 block. Awesome. Should be on a 12-team roster. Last game, the 5 fouls limited him to 13 minutes. It's going to be a roller coaster for sure. He's, in most cases, probably going to be a worse player, but there is the upside that's getting flashed. While Josh Green started in place of Kyrie, and he is doing nothing. 3 points in 26 minutes. Derek Jones, big role with Kyrie out, which is weird. 17 points with 3 threes for Jonesy. He's playing better, but they're still not using him anywhere. And then Exum didn't do much, and still no big numbers for Jaden Hardy. 9 points for Hardy in 14 minutes. I would have hoped we got a little bit more out of Jaden, but that hope is not going answered. All right, and in another weird game, the Jazz smash the winless Memphis Grizzlies. Winless. Yeah. 133-109, Utah wins at home. Again, how do we read a box score when Vince Williams Jr. plays 16 minutes and scores 12 points with 3 blocks and a steal? The answer is we don't read too much into it. Now, Vince Williams is a guy that put up very interesting numbers in college and was a really intriguing fantasy translation guy. But come on, we had 20 minutes of Jacob Gilyard. Did you know that he played for the Grizzlies? He's a very high assist backup point guard type player. And with Rose out, deeper leagues are going to want to watch here. 3, 3, and 6 for Gilyard. But overall, what do we do? We had only 14 minutes from the cashier, Xavier Tillman. He wasn't very good at all. Really wasn't very good. And some people will think that my viewing of Tillman as a 12-team must-roster guy is because I think Tillman's this great option. I don't think he's very good. I don't think he's this awesome guy that they build around at all. Not remotely close to it. But I also don't think that this is a realistic outcome every night. We saw 24 minutes for Johnny Concha. We also saw Zaire Williams play only 19 minutes. 8 points with 2 blocks. Bain was 27. Jackson 26. Smart 28. They just pulled the pin on this game really, really early. We also saw Snack Randolph, Kenny Lofton play 19 minutes. He had 12 and 5 with 2 steals. This guy will rack up the numbers. It's like Boban. It's like Bol. They go out there and they do put up numbers. And he was a +5, but they just can't rely upon him to do this in a regular-asked NBA game. He was 3 of 9 from the line as well, which did hurt the overall numbers. Don't rush to add Lofton. Don't rush to drop Tillman. Well, I wouldn't do that anyway. For the Jazz, good game from Colin Sexton. Needed one. He'd been outside the top 280 prior to today. 23, 3, and 6 in 22 minutes. But again, everyone's minutes are just compressed. 23, Taylor Horton-Tucker minutes, 9, 5, and 7. 23, Keontae George minutes, 9, 1, and 3. And I will reiterate my stance on Keontae George. I do believe that he is the most talented guard and should be getting an opportunity to start soon. But I will not hold indefinitely. I don't think that he's a league winner. Like with Coby White, a starter who might play 30 minutes and get you 15, 3, and 6 with 2 or 3 threes and a steal is a useful commodity that are not easy to find off the waiver wire. So often I'd like to be a little bit early and miss than not grab at all, because those guys just don't grow on trees. But I'm not wasting any time on it. But I'm not going to sit on it and wait for months. The 15th of November is a soft beginning of my tolerance period. Thanksgiving is the hard end. So we'll see what's happening through that time. And if it's looking exactly the same all the way through, I'll just move on. And that's what you should be doing with George. He is, and someone asked me again today, they go, hey, is he still a luxury stash? He's not even getting big minutes in a blowout. The idea of a luxury stash is it is a luxury to stash them. You do not need them to produce right now. That is the idea of one of these things. It is not a situation where they should be producing immediately right now. Now, would I have loved him to have got 27 minutes in this game, Keontae George? Yes, I would have. But I just want to see how it plays out over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then we can move on. And if you don't think that that his upside is actually worth it, and I actually don't mind that opinion, I think that is totally reasonable, then don't worry about it. Just move on from him. Markkanen, 9, 10, 11. Olynyk, 14, 8, and 5 in 26 minutes. That's interesting from Kelly. And then we went back to shithouse from Walker Kessler. At least he gave us 2 blocks, but 18 minutes, 4 and 4. So far he's only played big minutes in the game against Jokic. This is not great. We definitely don't drop Walker Kessler, but the way that he is being utilized at the moment is concerning. It is concerning. It has to be. We're not dropping him. I'm glad I don't have him on any roster, but it is concerning. Johnny Collins, 16 and 4, but rough efficiency with 2 steals. And yeah, Clarko, good game from Clarkson, 26 minutes, 20 and 6, 5 assists, 2 steals. He had been struggling, but overall, just a weird game. Like Olynyk flashed a bit, Horton-Tucker flashed a bit, George flashed a bit, Sexton flashed a bit. But I wouldn't feel great throwing a proclamation on any of them to be must roster. Again, George is, for me, trying to foresee some upside coming later on. But blowouts like this don't really enable you to get there that quickly, do they? And then we get to the last 2 games of the day. And yeah, some pretty good ones. The Clippers and the Lakers go to overtime. I feel like the Lakers are in overtime every single game. 130 Lakers, 125 Clippers. This was a back-to-back. And yeah, Kawhi played 41 minutes and Paul George played 37. I thought Paul George would play. I did not think Kawhi would play. And I am stunned because they both went crazy. Could they be 2 of the biggest draft day steals? I think it's possible. George, 37 minutes, 35 and 6 with 6 triples and 2 steals on 69% shooting. Kawhi, 38, 6 and 5, 5 threes and 2 steals on 54% shooting. Huge loads. We're going to see still what Harden does, but just amazing. And they still lost. 44 minutes for Westbrook. 24, 11 and 8, 4 steals and 3 threes. That's really good again from Russ. Bad percentages. I do think he's going to lose out a lot when Harden arrives, but he's been really, really strong to begin this season. We got 35 minutes from Norm Powell, only 12 points. He's not going to play that much. We got 34 minutes from Bones Highland, 4 points with 5 assists. Remember, Mann and Harden need to play still. That's 2 guys that are going to cut into these guys' minutes. 29 Zubats minutes and 19 Plumlee minutes. They didn't play small at all, while PJ Tucker played 21 minutes exclusively at the 4. He didn't do much. I'm not all that excited about Zubats. I do think that he will end up becoming a drop. He's probably not there yet, but I think he will end up a drop. But those top 3 guys, really big numbers. I just do expect Westbrook to suffer pretty significantly when Harden arrives. For the Lakers, let's just quickly talk about LeBron. We don't have to quickly do it. Let's just talk about him. We saw game 1, he played 30 minutes. They come out, tell us that he's on this plan to limit his playing time. He's 40 years old, man. It's year 21. And now he comes out and has 42 minutes, 35, 12, and 7, a steal, 2 blocks, 4 threes, 68% shooting. This man is unbelievable. You can think whoever you want is the GOAT. You can think it's Jordan. You can even think it's Kareem if you want. But what you can't do is you can't argue against anybody who thinks LeBron is the GOAT. You don't have to agree, But you can't say, you have no idea, mate. Absolutely ridiculous to think that. He has to be in that discussion. It's ridiculous what this guy is doing. It's ridiculous. He's 39. He's going to be 40. What is this shit that's happening? Wow. Davis, 48 minutes. 27 and 10, 2 steals, 4 blocks. This bloke's basically the number one player in fantasy so far this season. He's averaging 59 fantasy points as well. D'Angelo Russell, this bloke was benched in the playoffs. Davenham loves him again. 36 minutes, 27, 2 and 6. Great numbers. And how about disappointment of the year, Austin Reeves? 38 minutes, 15, 7 and 7 with 3 steals and still doing it while shooting poorly. Absolute green flag. We love to see that improvement. I did not want to drop him. I did not drop him. Let's hope that we stick. This is still only mid for him. He can get better. 29 minutes of Chris Wood. Not ideal in terms of the production, but 11 rebounds is good. A steal and a block is good. He's definitely in 12-team stream territory. And Taurean Prince was supposed to start. His game log is wild. It's what? 28 points, 0 points, 30 points, 0 points. And then this one, announced as a starter, pulled off before the beginning of the game with knee soreness and didn't play. We can't really roster Prince in 12-team league. So Cam Reddish got the start and played 37 minutes. Of course he did. 8, 4 and 4 with 3 steals and a block. He shot poorly, but some good defensive numbers. But as a low usage guy around those other players, he did okay. We're not rostering him anywhere, obviously. And that meant we finally got some Max Christie minutes. 5 points in 22 minutes for Christie. They ran a really big lineup at one point. I think it was Davis, Wood, and Hayes, and it got them back into it. So that was interesting to see how big they were going there. Jackson Hayes played 14 minutes. Overall. The final game of the day, the Kings and the Warriors. The Warriors get the win again, 102-101. No De'Aaron Fox, so we did get Davion Mitchell starting. Mitchie had 13 with 3 threes, 4 assists, and 3 steals. It's solid enough. You probably wouldn't have started him today. They've only got one more game this week, so I wouldn't say he's a priority. Malik Monk did what we sort of wanted him to do, I guess. 16 points in 25 minutes, 2 assists, 2 blocks. Not bad. And Sabonis was all right, 23, 11, and 8, but no peripherals. Solid enough from Pants and from the pencil. Barnes had 14 with 4 threes. Herder had 11 and 9. Like, that's totally reasonable numbers. They're totally okay. They're just not what I want to roster in 12 teams. And Keegan Murray really failed to capitalize on the opportunity without Fox. He played a lot, 39 minutes, but 10 and 6, no threes, 27% shooting. He's been a little bit better than I expected this season, but I wouldn't say he's taken huge steps forward. Interestingly, Duarte, only 7 minutes. There was a stage where he was playing more than Huerta, and we got down to 7 minutes. No, I don't know why I called him Huerta then. Herder. For the Warriors, Clay returned. He played 29 minutes, 14 points. 3 blocks is a little out of the ordinary for Clay. And we got a better version of Wiggins. Not still great, and only 25 minutes, but 14 and 2 with 60% shooting. Now, this is what classifies as a better version of Wiggins. But still, him only playing 25 minutes is a little red flaggy. It's a little worrying. And 2 rebounds and nothing else. I'm not dropping him, but bloody hell. He's averaging 15 fantasy points. We give him a little bit more leeway, but it's not great. Kuminga, 12 points in 17 minutes, not a 12-team guy. While Looney, the 6 assists were really strong from Looney. 6, 9, and 6. I don't see him as a priority 12-team league player, but I understand if you do want him for certain categories. Šarić was also really good, 15 and 6, and Steph had 21 and 5. But let's talk about Draymond. Biggest minute since he's returned this season, 13, 2 and 9, and he Richie Benoed. 2 threes, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Fantastic. Not a good night from Chris Paul, only 2 points, but he did have 8 assists. Paul's production has dropped since a really strong start to the season. So it's a little bit frustrating that we've seen him drop off, backs down since then. So that will bring us now to have a look at the recap of the streams of the day. We've got 5 streams of the day now. They just keep adding up, the old streams of the day. So how did we go? The 10-team category league stream of the day was Jalen Johnson. He wasn't at his best. 8, 11, and 2 is okay. The 12-team category and 12-team point stream was Malik Monk. I think that worked all right. 16, 3, and 2 with 2 blocks for Monk and 25.6 fantasy points. You could have found better ones, but I think that's still considered a pretty solid result. And then we look at the 14-team stream. That was not particularly good. Killian Hayes had 3 steals, so that's all right, but 0, 3, and 1. And then the 16-teamer was Josh Green, who also stunk 3, 3, and 1. Again, I think the process on Green was fine with Kyrie out. He was just terrible, and the Hayes one, man, he's going backwards, and Marcus Sasser was the guy that took over because, of course he was. That'll bring us now to talk about the monstrous line of the night. Now, again, these are based on category leagues, and this was really tight between two players to get the monstrous line of the night, but I am going to go with Idris Adebayo. I would if I had brought the right screen up. I will still go again with Idris, as I put the wrong thing on, Adebayo. No, we're still not going. What's going on with this? My graphics here? There we go. Bam Adebayo. what a non-event that was. 21 points, 14 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks for Bam. He was really, really strong, obviously, in this game, and good to have him back. Paul George was the other one who was really close to him. The waiver wire line of the night is the one we get to now. Best performing player rostered in under 50% of leagues, and we are going to go straight to Houston and straight to your mate, the worst. Dylan Brooksy Brooks, 20 points, 5 assists, and 5 steals. Brooksy is your waiver wire line of the night. Your young gun of the night is the best performer of a young player. Yes, but best performance from a young player who is in their first or second season. So no, your mate Scott Barnes doesn't qualify. The young gun of the night is Shaedon Sharpe, 29 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. And lastly, we go to the dud of the night, the best performing player who's rostered in over 70% of leagues. And it was a blowout. He didn't produce very well. The winner, I guess, is Bruce Brown. 3 points, 1 rebound, and 1 assist. So finally, to finish off the show, we look at the top 6 players across fantasy from the day. The top 6 we start off with for category leagues. Number 1 was Bam, followed by Paul George, LeBron James, Dennis Schroder, Anthony Davis, and Scotland Barnes. Our top 6 players rostered in under 50% of leagues. We're going with Dylan Brooks, who, yes, I think is a 12-team ad. Colin Sexton's like at 49%. I don't know about that one. Tim Hardaway's worth a stream. Grant Williams also probably more 14, but looking okay for 12s at the moment. Malik Beasley's always just a 3-point option. And then Marcus Sasser, who we keep an eye on, but I don't think we need to overreact to that. And then our top 6 players to finish out the show in points leagues today. LeBron, amazingly at number 1. Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, overtime all helped, obviously. Shaedon Sharpe at number 5, and then Christian James McCollum coming in at the end. And guys, that'll do it for me today. Don't forget to follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and on the Odyssey app. And if you are here on YouTube, thumb it up and leave your comments down below. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.